Hello, 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 hello. How many times can you hear the same line before you start to believe? We're going to go ahead and invite our guest speaker this evening. Getting ready to send our message. And while I'm doing that, just go ahead and enjoy this music. It's titled The Truth by Megan Woods. Yes. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to. Yay, she's here. Yay! Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wait, I'm going to have to pause this music. It's somewhat low. Can you speak a little bit again?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, wow.
Are you on your phone or a laptop?
I'm on my phone. Okay, I think it's better now. I've increased the volume.
Okay, because I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes.
I was playing this music called The Truth. I don't know if you've heard it before.
By who?
By Megan Woods.
I don't think I've heard it before.
I was kind of playing it for, our listeners, those who will join or those who will re-listen to the recording so they can
Yeah.
enjoy it.
I
Hopefully,
don't think I've heard it before, but I mean, I
yeah.
can listen.
We'll play it maybe towards the end.
No
How
problem.
are you? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
How
Good to be
has
here.
your day been? How has your day been? Just
Uh,
general check-ins.
I had a good day. I worked from home today, so it was
Ooh,
a chill day. I did a lot of catching up on my emails from the weekend.
yeah.
I just did my regular tasks. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. It was just a good day generally.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, we have others joining. Welcome.
Yeah, I think I'll forward it.
Miss, yeah,
I'll
we're
share it to my
to
I'll
your,
share it
yes.
to my story.
Welcome.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. This is amazing. So for those of you who are just joining us or who will be listening, so we started this series called Unlock You. We started it this month, and it's been beautiful so far. And what it basically means is just me coming out, obviously, with other beautiful gem daughters. We call ourselves gem daughters because we're transitioning from fatherless or daddyless daughters. And while I know that that's an issue that we're addressing, in my head, I'm like, I hate the sound of that name, daddyless daughter. And so, just joining and just making sure that we're reframing and reclaiming and
Mhm.
redesigning our lives, including the way we label ourselves and the way we present
Exactly.
ourselves, going forward. So
Mhm.
the unlock you is just, a conversation that brings a lot of awareness to the issue of fatherlessness.
Mhm.
The last time I did it alone, and
Mhm.
it was me asking a lot of rhetorical questions to people, like questions that get people really thinking about their lives. But
Right.
obviously, it's often centered around emotions, healing, forgiveness. So we have this five-step process in the Gem Daughters Network that we often lean on. We lean on the process of awareness, acknowledgement, forgiveness, healing, and then transformation.
Mhm.
So the Unlock You series basically focuses on, the emotional aspect, the identity aspect, and then the decision aspect of every fatherless daughter. And people hardly talk about it, but yeah, we are, and I'm really
Sorry,
excited.
I'm trying to adjust my stand so I can get
Oh,
a
okay.
good. Yeah.
Take your
Okay.
time. Take your
No
time.
problem. So I can get
Yes.
a better.
Let me know
Um.
when you're ready.
No problem. Okay. So let me
I'll just go ahead and maybe play the music in the background.
get it. Yep. I am going to be able to go.
Are you good to go now?
Almost. Give me one second.
Almost. Okay.
One 1 second. So I don't have to. I think I'm good now. Yes, I think I'm good now.
You're good now.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yay.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
good now.
Yes.
Hmm.
So this is just going to be very casual, you and I, and
Yeah,
our
definitely.
beautiful listeners.
Yes,
You know,
definitely. Hmm.
we're gonna have people always re-listen to the recordings.
Hmm.
But it's gonna be this is a series for every woman who has
Hmm.
ever felt the sting of the father's absence or some
Hmm.
fatherlessness. And I've
Hmm.
explained severally, if you go on our Gem Daughters Network page and I'm speaking to our listeners, you would see the last recording that really speaks to how do you know you are fatherless? What are some of the characteristics, that you manifest that makes you know you're fatherless? Because a lot of people think that, oh, I have a father, so why am I fatherless? Like my dad
Yeah.
was with my mom, and I'm like, no, 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 that's a myth. So we've gone into all of that. Sometimes we would, highlight it on the show on, our conversation tonight. But yeah, this is just to make it known that our conversations we are having are strictly tailored to the women and the daughters and the girls that we're serving, which
Hmm.
is, those who have experienced fatherlessness. And we're trying to see how we can unpack what that means and based on
Hmm.
from our personal experiences and also
Hmm.
science-based, research by default
Hmm.
so that we can combine everything to bring a holistic perspective
Yep.
to those who are listening. Yes, so let's get started. Yes, 7 minutes in. Let's get started. So today we have, I'm so honored to have you.
Oh, that makes me.
T,
I
so like so honored.
that,
I
yeah.
was I was I was I was looking you up as a researcher by default. You sent me the links. I listened to it and I was like, it's quite fascinating that you'd like to be addressed as T. And I was like,
Mhm.
isn't that interesting? Because I personally, my friends, I hardly call my friends by their full names. I always shorten it. So I'll
Yeah.
have friends that probably their names are long. I'll be like AY, or I'll be like T, or I'll be like W, or I
Exactly.
hardly pronounce the full
The
names.
full name.
So
Yeah.
when you
So
said you go by T, I was like, that's it. That's the connection right there.
that's a sign.
So that's
That's a
amazing.
sign.
Yes, that's the sign. That's the sign.
Yeah.
So, just to get us in, tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit, just tell us, about yourself, and you can go in whatever direction you want to go. Let's just get to know you, before we delve into the matters of today.
Okay. So, like I said, I mean, like you have already rightly mentioned, my name is T.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm fondly called T. I'm fondly called Ayanfe Jesu by friends, family. I'm a mom of two boys, two amazing boys. I'm a systems analyst in the healthcare space. I'm very passionate about Black excellence. So I'm very passionate about especially Black kids excelling, especially in the academic area of their lives.
Mm,
Um, I feel like there's that myth about a 1% of Black people who turn out great.
mm,
I would love to be part of the people who can champion the movements to increase that 1% number
yes.
metric or or statistics.
Yes.
Um, I am very passionate about digital transformation as well. So anything that has to do with the digital space, I am very passionate about it as well.
Hmm.
Um, in my spare time, what do I do? I'm a people person. I like to help. I like to talk
Ooh,
to friends. I feel like I'm one of those people that I like to encourage people, help
okay.
people with whatever they're going through. Even if I don't have everything to help them with, I like
Mm,
to, just encourage, be there. I'm that type
yes.
of friend. Um, a fun fact is I studied German in school, studied German in
Ooh,
university. Um, I love to assemble things, so I do a lot of things by myself. I think that's by virtue of being a firstborn,
okay.
first daughter.
First,
Uh,
first, firstborn syndrome. Okay.
First one syndrome. I think I would say I'm for the most part I'm so independent. So I love to do a lot
Mm,
of things by myself. I love
Mhm.
to assemble things, just fix things around the house. And I'm just a happy person.
Mhm.
I love love. I love to
Yes.
be, I love to be happy and just be a positive change in my environment or in my community.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you so much. You
Mm-hmm.
wear so many hats. And I
I
love
do.
that. I love that even when you were speaking about yourself, you didn't just focus on the professional aspect. You were like, this is the professional, this is the
Mm-hmm.
personal, this is the
Yeah.
pleasure. Think
Yeah.
of all the P's. You're like, let me
Mm-hmm.
bring it on. So
Exactly.
thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. Today's
You're
going to be
welcome.
conversational and very casual. So
No problem.
I love
No
that
problem.
you're bringing up all of these sides.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
People already know me. I founded the Gem Daughters Network. Like they already know me as Dr. Doris Wesley. So I really
Mm-hmm.
do not need to reintroduce myself. But obviously, for the record, just
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Doris Wesley, in case you're
Mm-hmm.
listening and you don't know who is speaking on the other end, you're like, who is this
Mm-hmm.
lady right here? So this is me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, doing my life in addition to this, which I would call a ministry or an aspect of an additional expression of my life, birthed from my experience. And that is bringing us to the conversation of today, which is around fatherlessness. Gem Daughters Network was birthed because I walked through the pain and the hurt and the name it. I'm sure T can identify with all of it or some of it. So we share a lot of similarities, and it's exciting when I'm like, yeah, I found my person. I found my tribe, people that really know how it goes in our own little world,
Yes.
So yeah, this will be me just asking you, to tell us what living, without your father was like. Let's just delve into the conversation. What was that like for you? Living without your dad. I know, right? We're going to be unlocking a whole lot of things. You're sharing,
I
I'm sharing. We're
know.
going
I
back and
know.
forth. Yes.
So I would say this. So was I very aware? Like, what age was I aware that I started to live without my father? It was when I was little. I think I was specifically the age. Maybe I wouldn't be able to say, but uh, I think about
Mm.
5 years old. And it was so I feel like the journey for me became the reality dawned on me at the point where I needed to grow up faster. Like I said, firstborn syndrome. I needed to grow up faster, help my mom in all the capacity that I could, so it meant me going through a phase of not having to do too many childish things. Like I had to, be an
Grow
adult
up.
quickly, grow up,
Hmm.
help my mom with, lifting heavy things. I mean, for when I was like 10, I was already like lifting up like a filled up cylinder of gas.
Wow.
We had a dispenser water the dispenser machine. So the water bottles, the refills, I would carry it myself. We had this I better pass my neighbor generator back in Nigeria. When it
Mm.
needed like oil change, I would change the oil. So I started to do things like, which is typical of like the man of the house to do. I had to
Mm.
kind of assume that role because I needed to help my mom. She was doing a lot as a single mom.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, in doing that, it started to make me like very strong and very like that's where my me being independent and very handy around the house, that's where it stemmed from.
Started. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it started. um so I felt like that was one phase of my life. The other phase of my life, I would say, had more to do with the emotional aspect, where there was no father figure to like turn to, that was easily available to have discussions with, and open up to, be vulnerable with, ask for advice, and just be spoiled. I feel like
Mm.
every woman deserves to be spoiled by
Oh
their dad.
yes. Oh
Uh-huh.
yes.
So having that moment where you're just like, oh, I'm going to see my daddy, or I'm gonna, just being
Yes.
a daddy's girl. I didn't really like enjoy that. I didn't really experience that, and
Mm.
so there was a void that created a void, which later on in life, affected me in some parts of my life, but not,
Yes.
I mean, thankfully, it didn't damage me. It just, had some effect on certain things that I did, certain
Mm,
choices I've made, but generally, um, it was a bitter, I would say bitter. It was a bittersweet experience because I feel like
mm.
in going through that journey, I kind of found out how strong and how resilient I am. I
Yes,
didn't know
yes,
that until, this happened. And
yes,
so that's the sweet part of it.
yes.
Yeah, so that's like a brief summary of what life
Wow.
was for me. Yes.
Wow, wow. It's so amazing that you highlighted the timeline and you said, you became conscious of it as early as five,
Mm-hmm.
as early as five. I would think about that about the same time I also became conscious of it, like 3 to 5. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I say three, people are like, three? Did you have like some cognitive, development at that time? I'll be like, well, I may not have recognized it in the full extent, but I identify the absence. And
Mm-hmm.
I was told a whole lot of narrative. Like in my case, if you don't mind me asking, what led to the fatherlessness in your case? Like what was the
It was
root?
more like what I remember vividly was him, getting married to somebody else. Somebody else was pregnant for him, and then he
Hmm.
left
He
to be with
left.
that person. Yeah, yeah.
So
Mhm.
as a result of divorce with your mom.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So the
that's
divorce was
that's
not the divorce wasn't the initial thing because the divorce happened afterwards, which my mom
oh.
initiated. It was more like he left first. So there was a separation that happened first. So the
Mm,
separation
mm.
was initiated by him because he left
He
to be with the
left.
the other woman. Yes, and
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And we can begin to go deep into how that singular act, how it affects
Hmm.
us daddyless
Talk
daughters.
about abandonment, the abandonment
You know,
that you have
abandonment
to deal with.
issues and so
Mm-hmm.
many things. What you've just said is so profound because these are some of the characteristics of what makes one fatherless. Like T, in your case, it was as a result of separation from your mom and then picking
Mm-hmm.
up and leaving before the divorce that came up later.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, my father even left before I was conceived. So when I mean
Wow.
conceived, before I was brought into the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so coming into the earth, there is already that vacancy and absence of where's the person that's supposed to be there for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because I'm a replica of him. Like if you see me, you see him.
That's the same thing with
That's
me.
the same thing with you.
That
Yay!
is so scary. I was gonna say something concerning that. I look just like my dad. In fact,
Like him.
the resemblance is so uncanny that my mom lashed out a lot on me because of it.
Yes. Yes.
I look
Yes.
like him. I walk like him. I I have a lot of mannerisms just like him. I look
Yes.
just
Yes.
and it's so, oh my God, that is so
I love
crazy.
that we're having these conversations because yes, we're talking about daddyless daughters, but even from what we've been sharing so far, and I'm speaking to people that are listening because obviously this is not just coming together to just chit chat. This is also an educational platform for people to actually listen to what we're sharing and learn from it. And so you see, it's so interesting because we are the daughters. We are what I would call maybe the victim, even though we're not necessarily as victimized as we were in the past. But we carry those, layers with us and those programming. But here is something you've just highlighted that's different because when our parents, who I consider, and our mother especially, who I consider the enablers, our mothers are the enablers in our lives, when they see us and we remind them of the spouse, everything comes down on us. Like, because that was my case too. That was my situation. I look just like him. I walk like him. My nails are like his. My toes are like his. I talk like him.
Same
I
thing.
get angry like him. I
Same
express my
thing.
emotions like him. And so it was always triggering and traumatizing for my mom
Unfortunately,
every,
yeah.
every time I show up. And so who is she going to lash that anger and frustration on? Me and you. It's so interesting. So in your case, there was a separation and then there was the divorce. And thank you all for joining. Thank you so much for also the compliment. Someone is saying you both are gorgeous. Yes, we are. We are gorgeous, and we know
Thank
that.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. But in my case, it was just a case of actually leaving. leaving, there was that denial of, pregnancy, denial of, the birth and all of that. And so as life would have it, I'm his replica. So you can't even go anywhere.
Nice.
I'm here. I'm here for you and I'm going to hunt you,
I'm gonna hunt you down.
hunt you down, you're going nowhere. And our situation is quite interesting because permit me to ask, is your dad still around? Is he still alive?
Oh yes. And you
Okay.
see, these conversations make me actually know that I've done a good work, and I mean I'm very proud of myself that
Yes.
I've been able to work on myself, my emotions, regulate my emotions when it comes to expressing how I feel about my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um for the longest, that was one part of my life that used to haunt me a lot. I was not happy. I was very bitter. I carried that whole, daddy issue with me everywhere I
Yes.
went to.
Yes.
And I would not even have this kind of conversation without, shedding a tear or two, be
Mm-hmm.
emotional. So the more I've been able to talk about it, the more I've been able to release all that bad energy I had before. He's alive. As God will have it, God has restored all that I thought that I lost when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to him, to the point that I'm very comfortable with him. I've forgiven him. I'm at peace with myself, and I can pick up the phone today and send him a message. I can call him. We still chatted some days ago. When I post my statuses,
Beautiful.
he's constantly stalking it and having to, he's a retired doctor, so
Yeah. Yeah.
he's very, very learned, very extremely, extremely intelligent, extremely cerebral. So
Yeah.
when I post things up, he has a habit of he would correct maybe like the
The
verbiage or
grammatical
a
errors.
grammatical error, or he would say, "Oh, don't use that word, it's negative," then quote
Mm.
some scripture in the Bible, and I'm like, okay, so right? So he's alive by God's grace. He's alive. He's fine
Mm.
with his family. Um, we're back in Nigeria, and so yeah,
Yeah.
he's alive. He's
Yes. Yes. So how did you navigate, and I know these things you're sharing. And so when you hear me ask, I'm asking just for others to learn.
still
What I
learning.
mean, I may not necessarily know your experience, but I know the
Mhm.
outcomes. I know
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
consequences, the damages, the daddy issues, the wounds, the fears, all
Yeah.
of the above. And
Yeah.
just to point it out there, if you guys haven't taken the Unlock personality test, you should go to gemdaughtersnetwork.org, and I'll share a little bit about what that is. Towards the end of this session so that you can go in.
Hmm.
But this is something that would make you know what kind of personality you're expressing, what kind of daddy wounds do you have. A lot of people, and I love what you said, T, because you just acknowledge doing the work. And that's the thing. A lot of
Hmm.
people can delay doing the work, but they can't deny the fact that it's still there. And
Hmm.
so many people cannot just wait until you can't keep saying, oh, I'm going to keep working with this limp or this wound. You've just got to
Hmm.
go take the test and realize, okay, what am I manifesting? What are you manifesting? And that's some of the
Hmm.
things that the test actually helps people, daddyless daughters especially, to realize about themselves. So yes, let's bring it back. You were talking about earlier about, just, overcoming all of that. Your dad is alive. How did you get to that point where you are now in a better place, because that's one of the things that we want to do, or we are doing at Gem Daughters
Hmm.
Network. Last year when we had a retreat during the Father's Day weekend,
Hmm.
someone who joined the retreat for the first time reached out to me afterwards, just giving a testimonial and saying she hadn't heard from her dad 20 years for 20 years.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
she called her dad just after the 2-day retreat. And then
Hmm.
she had a relationship with the dad and had a conversation. Sorry, she had a conversation with dad. The dad
Hmm.
apologized. They walked through that forgiveness. And it brought her to this point where, in fact, she told me that she was even able to send him some funds to kind of take care of himself.
Hmm.
So it was quite liberating and very relieving weaving for me. I was like, wow. So this makes this work we're doing really meaningful. Just to
Mhm.
see that reconnection, and restoration that took place. So in your case, based on
Mhm.
all of the emotional experiences you had growing up, based on its absence, the loneliness, the
Mhm.
rejection, the anger, the confusion, we know all
Mhm.
these things. We've been through there. We've been through it. The question now is, how did you get to this place with him?
Hmm.
How?
Okay.
How did you get
I,
there?
I,
How did you
I
flip
actually,
the chapter and you're like, now I'm gonna go to this next chapter in my book? How did you do that?
yes.
Mm,
Okay. So I will start with before I got to that space, so I got to that place where there had to be some type of what would I call it now, reconciliation,
creation, yeah.
forgiveness, and all that good stuff. There had to be first an evaluation,
Mm,
done. So I did a personal evaluation, and I tried to find out or try to get to the root cause of things. Everything now in the corporate world, they say we want to do the root cause
good
analysis.
course, I know.
Yeah, the root
Get to
cause
the root.
analysis. I had to do a root cause analysis on myself.
Mm,
And it was more about why I was always triggered when
mm,
I was present at, for example, a Father's Day event. I would just get too emotional,
yep,
crying.
yep.
I was like, something's off, something's definitely wrong with me. Like, this is not normal in any way. Like,
Mm,
why would I be in a space where people are celebrating fathers who are their heroes? And
yeah,
I'm just seeing myself in a very terrible mood.
yeah.
I'm not happy and all of that. So I think the actual day that was a turning point for me, or no, was a
Mm,
day of realization, not a turning point.
mm,
Actually,
yeah.
was there was a Father's
The
Day in my church,
awareness. Yeah.
the awareness. There was a Father's Day in my church, and they had these slides they had done for fathers and their daughter and their kids. They had taken pictures of fathers and the kids, and it was very, it was very nice. It was very thoughtful. It had some nice music playing. Maybe the music also added to the emotional, the emotional trigger. So there was music playing. It was so nice. I was like, and then in that moment, I started to cry. I was crying profusely
Mm,
to the point that I couldn't contain myself. I had to step out of the sanctuary. I had to
yeah.
go to the bathroom, wash my face, take deep breaths, and my eyes had gotten so red, and I
Yeah.
was like, "This is so no, this is abnormal." I
Yeah.
had to go back to the sanctuary and put on sunglasses because I didn't want people asking me, "Are you
What
okay?" Because
happened? Yeah.
look, I have big eyeballs. Once I cry, it's there. You can see it. It's red and it looks like, whoa, are you okay? I didn't want attention on me. So
All
I had
right.
to put on sunglasses and just calm down and let that whole by the time I got back, obviously the segment was done. So I was
Mm,
able to focus on other things. It was just a segment in church where it was on a display, just that,
yeah.
and everybody gave a round of applause. So it wasn't like throughout the whole service. So after that day, I said, no, this is abnormal. I need to really work on myself. Like, why am I feeling this way? So I realized that obviously I've always wanted that daddy's love. It's something that
Mm,
I've craved. I've
mm,
craved it because it was non-existent. Like it wasn't there, or it was there in the beginning, but it was cut. It was cut off abruptly, and I,
mm,
I didn't I didn't get to have a say. I didn't
mm,
get to vote. I, my voice or my opinion did not count. So I felt
mm,
like this is me. I'm in the middle of this whole drama happening where two adults are not having it or not having it
mm.
with each other,
Yeah.
but the kids don't get to have a say. They get to
Yeah.
suffer whatever
Suffer.
whatever the outcome is. So
Mm,
I was like, this is not okay. So I
mm,
decided to go on that personal journey to
mm,
kind of delve into what happened, like have a conversation.
mm.
And so I think I tried to reach out and I asked questions. I love to ask questions.
Yeah.
I dare to ask questions. I'm not
Yes.
afraid to ask questions. So I asked
Mm,
questions, what happened? Give me a rundown. Why did this happen? Why didn't you look for me? Why didn't you, take care of me? Why didn't you, I asked questions. And the more I was asking questions, the more I was getting answers that I did not like. It
mm,
was answers that were still dodgy, answers that were vague. answers that kept taking me back to thinking, oh, maybe you are actually the problem, So
mm,
I wasn't getting the answers I wanted or I wanted to hear. And so
mm,
I didn't think it made me feel even any better. So we
yeah,
kept trying to, have that conversation. I'll make it lighter by just doing a regular check-in. How are you? How was your day? You know,
mm,
then once things get a little light again, I would further ask. Like,
otherwise,
I'm on a journey. This is
yeah,
not just about chit chatting. I want to get to the bottom of why I'm feeling this way. What happened in the first place? So
yeah,
when I didn't get it, stuff our conversation started to it reduced drastically, and then it just
mm,
didn't happen anymore. So I felt
mm,
like whatever we were having that was now forced. It was not organic. So I took a break
yeah,
from it.
yeah,
Right. So a certain moment happened in my own personal life that he heard about. So there was a fallout between me and my kid's father. And
okay,
to me, I felt like that was a golden opportunity for him to redeem himself
yes,
and
yeah,
then come and, be a protector. Dad and say, what happened? Talk to me. Try and, make himself present.
present as a
Was
father who
as a
are,
father
our
should.
protectors and our, yeah, shield,
Yeah,
yeah,
so but it didn't happen that way. It was
mm,
more like there was blame again, like, oh, why did you leave? Why did you do this? So
yeah,
in my head, I started to think, I said, oh, because my mom stayed, you think I should stay? No,
yeah,
this is we're in the 20th century
yeah,
and things are different, people
yeah,
now have a voice.
yeah,
Luckily, most countries practice democracy. Luckily, most countries are now, include women. There's that inclusion, so women have a
hmm,
voice. So
hmm.
it's not like back home when
Back
the
then,
patriarchy
hmm,
was like deeply rooted in everything that was done, even to
yeah,
the detriment of women. So I
yeah,
was like, no, I have a voice. Somebody does something mean to you, there should be a consequence. You
yeah,
should speak up about it. You should
yeah,
not die in silence and be suffering. So he reached out, and his reaching out was not to pacify me or find out what happened with me. His reaching out was, you should go
mm,
back to your family, go back to this. I'm like, wow. So that really made me feel very bad.
mm,
And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't respond to his message, but I blocked him. I blocked him
mm.
because I
Okay,
didn't want to be rude.
we're gonna talk about this blocking because I believe all fatherless daughter can identify with the attitude of easily cutting off.
So
It's a normal thing for us all. Let us continue.
So I didn't want to be rude to him. We're
Yeah,
Christians. I
yeah.
still believe in the honor your parents, honor your father, your
Mm,
mother. So you
mm,
can do that with wisdom. So I didn't want to be rude, so I blocked him. So I gave it a whole year. Worked on myself, like I said, did a lot of, healing and, working on myself generally. So when I was ready to speak to him, I unblocked him, reached
mm,
out and let him know that I'm ready to talk. And I
mm,
expressed how I felt. I was not
mm,
happy at the
mm,
time where I needed you the most. You were not there for me. You did the opposite of what I expected you to do. This is how it made me feel. I really spoke about how I felt, but I did it
mm.
with grace. I was
Yeah.
not rude about it. I was not, I expressed myself, and then he responded in a way that I've never seen him respond before.
Mm.
There was this was through text message. There was a tone of remorse. There was a tone of self-awareness.
Mm.
There was a tone of, oh my god, I really wronged this girl. That has
Yeah.
never happened before. That hit me really hard. And for the first time in maybe more than over 3 decades, I
Wow.
see my dad text the word I love you and your sisters.
What every daddyless daughter long to hear.
Doris, I heard
That's no,
this.
no, no. That's it. That's all we long to hear.
I heard this
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
I cried for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cried for my guts. I was
Yeah.
so emotional. I could not believe I was hearing this from this person. It felt like that's all I needed to put
Yeah.
the cherry on the cake to complete my healing.
Mm.
It was because it felt like I've heard I love you from a lot of people. I know God loves me. But
Mm.
like you said, fatherless daughters, they long to hear those words, those three-letter
Yeah.
words from their dad.
From your
It
dad.
means that's the only I love you that matters to them.
Matters. Yes.
So he said those words. I cried. I got cried, ugly cried. Thankfully, I was not anywhere around anybody that knew me. I was in my car. My car is that place is my therapy room. My car has seen a lot of
I've
my
gone
ugly
through a lot.
sides.
I hope you have a name for your car.
My car has a name, right? My car.
Yes.
All my cars, I always give them a name.
They
This
give
one is
them
Snow.
names.
This one is Snow White. my car. I
Mine is called Zelda.
Oh, good, nice. I always so that's my therapy room, my prayer room, my
Yeah.
everything room. So I cried. The windows were up. I cried. I screamed. And I was just and I felt like that weight off of me.
Mm.
It was magical, I must say. So after that happened, we had that whole okay, I love you too, this is all I've been wanting to hear. We had that back and forth conversation,
Mm.
and I started to express, certain things, and then we ended up gets to the point where there was forgiveness spoken about. I forgive
Mm.
you,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
after that conversation, we started to talk on a
Mm.
regular basis. But that conversation, felt to me, I feel that was the beginning of my healing and my forgiveness towards him. It changed
Yeah.
me. I felt better in every
Mm.
aspect,
Every aspect.
and
Mm.
I felt like that was like an obstacle because once that
Mm.
happened, things started to seem different in my life.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, yes. So
Mm.
that was really the moment that changed everything for me.
Wow. 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 Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Because I do this work from obviously a place of pain. So when I say place of pain, it's the work that I do with Germ Daughters is pain being transformed into
Mhm,
purpose, just like you're doing now,
mhm,
It's like you go through the journey of healing yourself and you're like, I don't want to leave people behind. I want to create a platform, a community where people can also, find healing and transformation and realize their strength and all those fun stuff. And thank you all for joining. We're having a large followership or joining and people who are joining in. So thank you all for being here and listening. But yeah, what I just wanted to highlight is that with my work, especially when I do research around fatherlessness, and even the Unlock Personality Test is a research-based test, we realize that the shape of the heart, people don't talk about it, but the shape of every heart is created with the imprint of both the father and the mother. It's like genetics. Think about genetics. That's why you're saying you look like your dad, I look like my dad.
mhm,
There's some characteristics of our mom that we take along with us. And so when our fathers leave for whatever reason, they take a piece of ourself with them.
yes.
So
Mhm,
that piece leaves a hole. So imagine we have this full, complete hole in our heart. And then
mhm,
when our father leaves, they take a piece, they cut a piece of that hole and they take it with them, of the heart, and take it with them. It means that there's a hole that's there. And as with
mhm,
every fatherless daughter, what we do is we try to fill that hole.
mm,
We feel it from so many reasons and so many places. And we go, we can talk about relationships, we can talk
mm,
about growing up, we can talk about
mm,
boys, money,
mm,
family, everything. We can start bringing it out here, even though it's not necessary, though. But one thing that you're sharing has actually made me, come to reaffirm, especially when you said, when you heard, I love you, it just opened up a whole lot of things. Is that the I love you was a reassurance of the longing you had been craving for. And
that's it.
so him saying I love you was him telling little T what little T wanted to hear all along. And as soon as little T heard it, she was like, I'm okay. I'm filled now. I'm good. I'm good. And then every other thing you do, building on the relationship, creating the bond, it's now the big T who is navigating that aspect. But the little T is already satisfied. That's why we can talk about forgiveness.
Mm,
In my own case, I didn't hear I love you first. I heard I am so sorry. You know,
mm,
I
mm,
was waiting for the apology for a very long time. because I wasn't really interested in the I love you, even though I wanted the I love you. You know, the I love you was there. I wanted that reassurance. But before we get to the reassurance, I wanted him to be apologetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always looking for when was he going to apologize? When, you know? And so now imagine someone like me, like my past self, who got offended because I was not apologized to. Now imagine anyone who comes across me and offends me. Tell me what's gonna happen to that person. I'm gonna lash on you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look at you
Transfer it
through the lens of him.
of
Oh,
him.
you think you want to hurt me and go without apologizing? So even before you hurt me, I'm out. You know, and
Mm.
so we can start talking about all of those things. And for others who are craving for that, you know, yearning from their father to love them, they begin
Mm-hmm.
to seek love from other people. They want other people to tell them that same thing that they want the
Mm-hmm.
father to tell them. So it
Mm-hmm.
just depends. So my question for you, this is another one, and this can be considered deep. I don't know how you're
Okay,
gonna
it's
see
fine. It's okay.
it.
Let's
But
go.
let's talk about decisions. You know, I'm very big
Mm-hmm.
on decisions. Oh my God.
Mm.
Like you know that.
Mm.
So we in our Germ Daughters Network, we have this C3 gathering. It's Crystal Community Connection Gathering. We meet every
Mhm.
quarter. So at the end of Q1, we'll meet. The next time we'll meet, I think, is June. That's the end of Q2. Um, and so one of the things I've been working, the ladies and the women in our community through is just decision making. And we hardly talk about decisions, but decisions is what begins and ends our life. Like all these things we are
Definitely.
doing, I made a decision to be here. You made a decision to be here as well.
Definitely.
So talking about decision, my
Mm-hmm.
question for you is, especially for us as we begin to unpack this, as you began to grow, in your relationships, career, faith, money, how did your father won't show up in your decisions in any of this department? Oh no, I know. It's big. We can talk
Woo!
about marriage because look at it. I always say
No,
the first
it's a,
man in our lives, the first man we
mm,
ever meet is our father. And if our
mm,
father doesn't show us the love, is it one husband that want to come and show? In fact, even when they are genuine, we'll be questioning it. We'll be like, are you sure these people really love me like that? You
exactly.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you choose. You want to choose relationship, career, faith, money,
Mm-hmm.
and faith means even your relationship with God, because we don't talk
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
How we view our Father on earth somewhat
Mm-hmm.
affects our relationship with our heavenly Father. I know
Definitely.
there was a time that I think for years I didn't even have a relationship with God. I was like, no, I'm angry with you. And that's okay to be angry. We live in a culture to be like, you cannot question God. I'm like, who told you that?
Exactly.
And on the time I was so angry. Like,
And
if
hers.
anybody had
Yeah.
brought God to my matter, I would have just cut off the person's head because I was pissed. And that was the relationship with my father, my earthly father, affecting the relationship with my heavenly father. So
Definitely.
you think, how has father wounds, showed up in any of the decisions you made? And what's that like? And how did it
Oh.
lead you? Hmm.
Woo! That's a very deep question.
Yep.
But I'll try as much as I can to answer it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So the in my in my journey of life, father wounds always showed up. Um Anybody who interacted with me, when it came to be me being an emotional person. So when I'm talking to friends like girlfriends and just having regular conversations, you wouldn't notice because by nature I'm a very bubbly person. I have good interpersonal skills. I make friends easily. I can be a chatterbox. So you would see that bubbly side of me. You would not even think whether I had a father or not. That would not be the
Yeah.
question. I wasn't
Yeah.
some broken girl who was timid or withdrawn or
Wow.
not confident. So
Yeah.
I always
That's a
exude
different
confidence.
personality. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, my personality was always intact when it came to making friends, when it came to retaining relationships and maintaining relationships.
Yeah.
That never was a problem. I think my father would showed up mostly in romantic relationships.
Relationships.
Yes, because platonic relationships, I think I did well with it because, like I said, my personality, my innate person
Yeah.
always compensated for that. So
Yeah.
I didn't have issues with that. Making friends was not an issue. Being the center of attention or whatever was not an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
But in relationships, I feel like my father would show up a lot. First, being that I felt like because I was because there was a void
Mm.
that I felt like I carried for a long period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I always felt I needed a man now being my lover or
Yeah.
whoever I was with, to feel right. And so what I feel came out of it, like, and what you say, you need to know yourself and do that test. I haven't taken that test, but I've taken some other tests to know,
Yeah.
for example, my attachment style. So
Yeah.
I have an anxious attachment style
Ooh. I
because
already know your daddyless daughter personality, even with what you've been
with talking to
describing
me,
right
well, I would
now.
love to know that too. But I know my attachment style is I have an anxious attachment style, and
Yeah.
so if I was with someone, I think, and that made me the very downside to that was he always presented me as a very needy, clingy
Mm.
person.
Mm.
I always sought for validation.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of girl that would tell a guy like, tell me you love me.
Tell
You
me
didn't
you
say
love
you love
me.
me. Tell me you
Oh.
love. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would always say that. I think I don't know if my partners in the past would have, if anyone ever pointed it out to me like directly, but I would
Mm.
hear like hints that would make me take a step back and like, I feel like I should chill. Like
Mm.
I was that girl. I'm not even. Like I said, I'm eyeing 40 like this, so I need to be. I need
No,
to
we've
be
got it to the stage where we are now raw and
you have to be
authentic.
accountable.
Exactly.
You have to be accountable for things. You
Yeah.
have to be able to call yourself out when you do something wrong. You
Yeah.
don't need somebody to call you out. So I'm
Mm-mm.
not going to sit down here and act like, oh no, I know that there was a time in my life I
Yeah.
was very needy,
Yeah.
very clingy. I
Yeah.
wanted that love so bad. And so because
Yeah.
I wanted to be loved so bad, I made wrong choices by, for example, being with somebody that is so clear that they didn't like me as much as I liked them,
And you like
you know,
them.
and I liked them. So my people pleasing was on steroids. So
Yeah.
I would say, okay, with friends, with my friendships, like right now, I always ask myself, at the moment when I'm about to do something for someone, I always ask two questions. T,
Yeah.
are you trying to be a people pleaser in this instance, or are you just being
Mm.
kind because I'm a kind person? I would say that.
Mm.
I know I'm a kind
Mm.
person.
Mm.
But now I always ask myself, is this kindness or is this people pleasing? I always
Mm.
talk to myself to be able to distinguish. Once I feel like it's people pleasing, I always take a step back
Yeah.
because that's a recipe for my doom. And I know
Mm.
that I'm not going to be happy afterwards. So what's the point?
Yes.
Because then
Yeah.
I would drain and exert myself and it
Yeah.
won't be reciprocated. Do you
Mm.
get what I mean? And
I
I
do.
would feel like, oh, what am I doing? So
Mm.
I know that the daddy wouldn't show up a lot in my romantic relationships. He went further to birth things like anxiety, which is my
Mm.
anxious attachment style I was referring to. He went further to birth things like people pleasing on steroids, not just regular, like people pleasing.
Yeah.
He went ahead to make me accept accept what word do I want to use now? To go ahead to accept things like ill treatment,
Mm.
not being loved the way I should be loved, but
Should
just
be loved. Yeah.
managing it because I want to have somebody that is telling me every morning and night I love you.
I
I
love
felt like I,
you.
I
Yeah.
needed to hear it.
Yes.
So it,
Yes.
it didn't, and it also didn't make me be self-sufficient.
Mm. That's it.
So I was not a self to a good extent. Right now I can categorically tell you that I think I've worked well enough to be
Yeah.
self-sufficient
Where
by
you're
myself.
enough. Where you're enough
I'm
with
where
you.
I'm enough.
Yes.
That's the word, and
Oh
I'm
yes.
okay. Before
Yes.
I struggled a lot with that to be just
Oh
by
yeah.
myself. Like I had to go somewhere with someone, especially a
Yeah.
guy. Go watch a movie
Mm.
with the guy. Go to a movie. Go to dinner with the guy. Go. I needed that male presence. That's the
Yes.
word.
And
I needed that
validation.
male
Yeah.
presence and validation in my life because I lacked it for years. So
Yes.
he always showed up, especially in romantic relationships. And I don't
Yeah.
think he helped me in any way. No, he kind
Mm.
of always. projected more of my weaknesses as a
Mm, mm,
person,
mm,
you know. And
mm.
it's like, for example, if I was talking to somebody and they just stopped calling me, or I wasn't hearing from them, I
Yeah,
would be, I'm like, oh my God. I remember like, oh, my dad left me. This person has left me too,
yes,
you know.
yes,
I'm like going crazy in my head. I'm thinking of
yes,
the worst. I'm
yeah,
anxious. I'm not functioning well. I'm like,
yep,
this is so abnormal.
yes,
It's
it
super
is. It
abnormal.
is. It is.
So
Oh,
it did show up a lot in mostly my romantic relationships. That's what I can remember.
yes, yes, yes. Oh my God. What you've just shared is so profound. And guys, if you're listening, because I know a lot of you are, these things are deep, are deeper than a lot of us acknowledge. And even when we're doing the work, we're realizing that we're just scratching the surface. There's still
Hmm.
more to dig into. And
Yeah.
but like they say, the awareness is the first step to transformation. And the moment you become aware, you're like, oh, I've seen this happening in this area. And then you
Hmm.
start to work with that. And then
Hmm.
you see another area, you start to work on that. And what T has just shared is relationships, romantic relationship, like dating patterns, and all of that. If I even think about relationships, I'm like, I was even the opposite. Like, you can't even come close to me. That's the thing. It's like you want to hurt me. So that's the thing. You want to abandon me. You want to leave me. So I won't even allow you come close. You see, so you can see that while there's another aspect of a daddyless daughter that can be clingy to it, there are other aspects of daddyless daughter that are completely, there is that big barrier and wall that we put. That now when we now get married, and these are deep questions, you now realize that even having intimacy, maybe with your spouse, becomes a very big deal. What you're like, you're supposed to be free and relaxed. You are uptight because you're like, hey, I don't want you to come close. And then you're
Hmm.
like, what's going on? That's just one of the, manifestation of these daddy ones. And then we can talk about careers. If you've never felt
Hmm.
enough as a daddyless daughter, you would always be thinking you probably are not in the right career. You're on one path, you're like, oh, maybe this is not it. You're jumping to the next. You jump into the next, and people don't connect the dots. And that's one of the things that we help you do. Then we can talk about money. Money is also another aspect.
Hmm.
Your flow of money. How do you see money? How do you create wealth? Do you see that something you create, or do you see that something you have to go to someone to get it from? Because daddy wasn't there to give you, so you had to say, I have to create this. And that's why we have a lot of independent women. I was talking on a podcast the other day, and I said most feminists we have today are daddyless daughters. A lot of feminists that I say independent, I can do it. Because by nature, a woman is supposed to relax and be taken care of.
And be a a
I
soft
don't
life.
know where we got all these things from. So,
No, but talking about feminists, like me, I always tell people I'm not a feminist. I'm not
mm,
trying to be labeled as one.
yeah,
I'm not against the movement of feminism when it has to do with equality in the workspace, in the
equality. Yep,
corporate
yep,
world.
yep,
I am for that. I'm pro
yep,
that. I would support
yes,
that. I would advocate that a female software engineer should be paid the same thing that a male software engineer should be paid.
exactly,
That to me makes
exactly.
sense. But when feminism becomes radical to the point that
Yes,
women hide
left,
under that
left wing.
umbrella to
Hmm.
bash men or to emasculate men, I'm not a
Yes,
party to
I'm
it.
not for them.
And the irony is, I always tell people this, the irony is, though my dad walked out and I became fatherless in the sense,
Mm,
I should be one of those feminists actually who
yes,
is bitter and is like, men are scum. Oh, I hate men. Oh man, da, da, da. But that's not the case with me. Let me tell you why again.
yes,
And that's why, if you know that separating who you are, like for example, through God's eyes,
mm,
and who you are in terms of your earthly father not be present in your life, if you're able to leverage more on who you are through the eyes of your heavenly
your
father
source.
and
Yes,
your thoughts, it helps a lot. So
yes,
because
it does.
I'm like I said, I feel like God filled me with so much love. I have so much
Mm,
love inside of me, and that's
mm,
why I love love, and I've
yes,
never given up on love. So you
yes,
would see me that I wouldn't say men are scum. I'll say there are good men out there. There are good
yeah,
fathers out there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I like to
there,
surround myself around those good fathers and those
yes.
men, because they do
Yes.
exist, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Oh, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. When I mention feminists, is that when people speak, if you've been around or doing a lot of work on healing and transformation, you can tell when people are speaking from a place of pain. And you can tell when the
Definitely.
people are speaking from a place of fact, objective, and they're just putting their point across. The ones I'm referring to are those speaking from a place of pain. And I'm like, you all need to get in here and get some work done on yourself because
Yeah.
what's going on
They're
here?
carrying so
You
much
know,
bitterness, and
so
look,
much
they
bitterness,
don't hear.
resentment.
They're never objective, never factual about stuff.
Nope, nope.
They're very sentimental.
Very, very. Yes, yes, very, very.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you so much. It just shows how, father wounds, daddy wounds show up every single time, every single time. Um, the goal is actually how to walk around it, transform it. And now we're coming to the transformation part. Transform it to something good, to something that we know that is healthy for us. And I know you started talking a little bit about it. You talked about your relationship with God and how that has kind of helped you. Because my next question for you would have been, so what are your current coping mechanisms? Because some of
Mm-hmm.
these things are programming. They stay there. These are the things.
Yeah.
They are in your subconscious. They will forever be there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that your conscious mind then will begin to transform it in a way that you can now live with it in a very healthy,
Mm-hmm.
way. But in terms of you just saying, I'm just going to forget that never happened. No, ma'am. Or no,
No.
sir. So even this
No.
conversation, if we have, guys listening or fathers listening, this really tells you how important you are. We have
Mm-hmm.
a conference coming up in June in less than 2 months, for fathers and daughters, because that's what we focus on in Germ Daughters Network. And we're excited because we're going to be having Miss T, come up and speak. She's going to be one of our speakers,
Yeah.
beautifully. But yeah, it's for fathers. And I know we're living in a world today where fathers are feeling less and less, wanted and
Mm-hmm.
accepted. And when you hear conversations like this from we daughters, so we're speaking from the perspective of a daughter, just think about your daughter in few years to come. You are so important. So when you think, oh, I'm not needed, no, that's not true. You are as relevant and as important as we all are. And that's why even the conference is titled, it's titled Futuring. I'm gonna have to look it up very deeply. Yes, I think it's, give me a minute. Let me just really get the full name. Yes, Fathering Our Future. That's the name of the conference. Fathering Our Future. It's going to be our first time, having the conference, and then subsequently we'll have daddyless daughters on board, fathers, professionals, policymakers, government officials. The goal is actually, yes, we're addressing the issue of fatherlessness, but there is the policy and systemic side of it, which we want to lead that conversation so that it actually starts changing the narratives around single parenting and what support they need and how we need to go on, going forward. So back to my question for you. What are some coping mechanisms? I know you mentioned God, your relationship with him. What other
Mm-hmm.
things do you do that could be really helpful for others listening to say, okay, I'm having this, but how can I? And then again, we have our communities for you to join in. We always
Mm-hmm.
have so many nuggets going on, newsletters, weekly challenges, growth exercises, quarterly meetings, loads of fun stuff, even opportunities where there are offers and opportunities. We have a funding opportunity coming up where we'll be giving out some resources to some women, to just kind of help them in whatever, area they're navigating. And so that's also a good reason, to be a part of our network, because we're very focused on our people. Let's just put it like that. So if you're one of us, we got you. All right. So tell us what some of your coping mechanisms are, if any. Yeah.
So, like I mentioned, first of all, one of the coping mechanisms for me, not everybody is religious, not everybody is
Yes.
spiritual, so it
Yeah.
might not work for everybody, but this worked for me. Is I connected more to God, who, like I said, is my heavenly Father. I think that specific moment in my life that meant something to me was I listened to this song by Travis Green. It's called
Mm.
Daddy's Home, and
Mm. Yeah.
it's a very the lyrics is like deeper for me because it resonates
Mm.
with me. Somebody else might listen to it and might just sing it for the fun of it, but it
Yeah.
meant a lot to me. Um, and I that helped me a lot to understand that, your actual daddy, when you say that your daddy is home, it's
Yeah.
your father. Like, if you carry him inside of here, there shouldn't be any void. he
Yes.
he
Yes.
he alone should make you feel enough and
Yes.
sufficient.
Yeah.
And if you lean onto him and speak to him daily, he
Yeah.
listens.
You
He
listen.
I mean, he's not here in terms of flesh, but he's with you. So
Yeah.
I mean, why would you even open your mouth to say like you don't have a father? You have a
A
father who's
father, when you have
walking with
the
you,
father of all
the
fathers.
father of all fathers. He's there, he's providing for you. Because I'm like, okay, what's the role of a dad, in the life of a child, either a girl or a boy? Fathers are supposed to be there to protect. They're the head of the family. It's there in the structure, the family structure, how God has designed it to be. They're supposed
Mm.
to protect, provide. They're supposed to there to shield. That's
Yes.
why anatomically they're stronger
Yeah.
in terms of their how they're built than a woman.
Yes.
They're there to carry. All those things are, there's some certain words that are always associated when you're talking to the man of the house.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know so when you have somebody who is carrying everything for you, I mean,
Mm.
carrying you, and you can see it manifest in everything that you do.
Yeah.
There was a day I sat there, I asked myself, I was like, why are you stressing? You wanted to have your dad teach you how to drive. He was not there. There was driving school. Driving school helped me. You wanted your dad to provide for you. God provided
He
through
did.
people, through my
Yeah.
mom. You know, I asked. I just, like I said, I like to ask questions. I asked myself a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the question was the actual question was, what are you lacking?
Mm. Mm.
And when I couldn't answer that question, I was like, I don't think I lack anything right now.
I want to
You
speak in tongues right now. Just
know?
continue.
I was like, what am I lacking? I don't lack
Mm.
anything. So
Mm.
why am I creating problems for myself?
Mm.
And that's why I tell people that in recent times, I tell myself, I said, the word trigger is used so loosely and casually, especially in this part of the world.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of this Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I mean,
I'm triggered.
and I tell people that, hey, you can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And I tell people, like, you can control your triggers.
Yeah.
Sometimes your trigger actually is an enemy. It comes to just ruin a moment.
Mm.
Sometimes take a step back and analyze things. Don't be sentimental all the time. Sometimes you can overcome your trigger. The same way you overcome fear,
Yeah.
you can overcome your trigger. So some people say trigger, trigger, everything is they're triggered. Some people in this, no, I'm telling you right now, you say something that it doesn't even carry weight. I'm triggered. I'm triggered. I'm like, hey, calm down. Your trigger is sometimes is the weapon fashioned against you. You can control it sometimes. You can
Yeah.
overcome it. You can control where it shows up. And when
Mm.
your trigger comes, we have dominion over everything. That's what
Yeah.
God gave to us. You
Yeah.
can overcome your trigger.
Mm.
So I don't let, for example, like I said, I can pick up the phone and call my dad and smile. I can
Mm.
laugh. That was not me 5 years back, 4 years
Years
back.
ago. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I would. And I overcame something when it came to my dad
Mm.
that helped me to cope, because that's your question. I want to stay on the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I used to be afraid of my dad. Yes, I'm gonna
Mm.
own up to that today. I used to be afraid of him because I watched him over the years trample over people. Like, he was more like a bully. My
Mm.
mom, his nurses, whatever. He had that demigod personality.
Presence.
You don't
Yes.
dare talk to him. You don't dare question him. So that's kind of was
Mm.
transferred. So I saw myself afraid of him, to confront him, to
Mm.
ask him questions like, who are you? You this tiny
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah.
So I overcame that fear after that conversation I told you I had that made me
Mm.
cry.
Yeah.
And then I was able to talk to him. I was able to have conversations with him. He's a human being. He's a mere mortal. Like me. Why am I afraid of him?
Mere mortal.
Yes, he is a mere mortal. So why am I afraid of him?
Interesting.
Yeah. So when that came, when I was able to take away and eliminate that fear I had of him,
Yeah.
it helped me to cope with whatever topics came around. Father, this
Mhm.
thing. asking about my dad. I said, oh yeah, he's alive. He
Mm.
was a doctor. Oh, the reason why I'm hypochondriac or very obsessed with health and medicine is because of my dad. He was a doctor. I grew up. I mean,
Mm.
there was a times I was around his clinic. So yeah, I kind of shed more light on the good. In my own case,
Yes.
I think my case is different from yours because
Yes.
yours, you didn't meet him at all. I had like a 5 year, 6 year relationship with my dad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I kind of remember the fond memories that I can remember that I've been able to preserve. Like I'll tell you
Mm.
that people questioning you about you being three at the age of 3 remembering things, that's not far fetched. My
Yeah.
son remembers things from when he was 3 years old. Our
Yes.
memory
Yes.
is very, very interesting and dynamic.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes your long-term memory would have more power than your short-term. I
Mm-hmm.
my son remembers the color of his nursery when we were
Yeah.
back in Nigeria,
Wow.
and I never told him. So I know that whatever you said you remembered, you did remember. So me, I actually remember my dad going to work, driving in his 505, and him, when he's going, he would look back and do this sign to me and say, ciao. He used to say ciao to me. I remember that.
You
You
remember
know,
the
so
5-year-old, you
yes,
remember that.
I
Yeah.
remember that. I remember that
Yeah.
clearly, you know.
Yeah.
So I know
Yeah.
that I remember some fun memories. I remember that I have God. That helps me to cope. And the final thing that helps me to cope, you wouldn't believe, or I mean, no, you would believe because I mean we are in the same we're in the
Yeah.
same WhatsApp group.
We're in the same WhatsApp group. Exactly.
The final thing that helps me on a
Yeah.
daily,
Yeah.
continuous to remember, sorry, to cope rather, is, and I want everybody listening to me who is in this same, has the same situation going on with them, is your fathers who didn't do good by you, honestly, look at it like how Christ said to the crowd, saying, are we still on?
Yes.
Is it okay? Saying, um when he was about to be nailed on the cross. I mean, this is
Give them,
rather
they know not what they are doing.
sister. And how significant is that? Because it was still celebrating Easter, right? Yes, the
Today,
death and the
Easter
resurrection
Monday,
of,
and so we are
yes.
raised. I get it.
So
I
I
get it.
look at it that way as well. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he whatever he did was based on his knowledge at the time. He
Yeah.
probably was ignorant. He probably didn't
Yeah.
know much. Who was his own father? Where did he
Yeah.
learn all that from?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just look at him like, you know what? I feel now, I instead of getting mad at him, I feel sorry for him. Like,
Mm.
oh, if only he had time to get counseled at the time. If only he had the good example, he
Yeah.
only did
Yeah.
what he knew at the time. He didn't know what he was
Yes.
doing. And so
Yes.
that made me remove any type of hurt, anger, bitterness
Yes.
towards him. I look at him
Yes.
like a
Yes.
little kid and smile. So sometimes when he sends some things to me, I just laugh and say, this man, this old man. In fact,
You'll come again.
when I message him, I call him Baba 70. I say, Baba 70, how are you?
You know,
And I'm still able to actually even draw boundaries, because there was
yeah.
an incident that happened recently that was going to make me get mad at him, but I said,
Mm.
I took a step back. I said, no, don't let this
Yeah.
man take you back to where you're coming from,
From
you know. So yeah,
mm.
stuff like that helps me.
Oh my God, like what you've just shared, so super profound. Your relationship with God, and even this, what you just shared is a tool on forgiveness.
Hmm.
That was what he did. That's what Jesus did. Forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. One of the things I always share, in fact, the last newsletter we sent out to those in our community was on forgiveness. And I actually quoted this exact passage from
Really?
Luke.
That's so
I
nice. That's
did.
cool.
And because I was like, we don't know the whole story, like you just
Mm.
mentioned. We don't know the whole story. If you do a deeper root cause analysis, I know when we were growing up, in fact, I teach, a professor by practice, by purpose, if I would say. So in my teaching, when I teach an intercultural communication class, one thing that I let my students do, especially if we're talking about family tree, is that I tell them to go ask questions,
Hmm.
about their families and what that's like. And I realized that if you do a root cause analysis on your father's history, you
Hmm.
realize that he probably didn't have a father who fathered him like a father should. If you
Hmm.
go deeper, you realize that there was that pattern that cut across generations. And
Hmm.
so You just were the victim. I'm just the victim. And so now the question starts with, how do you stop that pattern? That's where Gem Daughters comes in. Because now you realize that, oh, if you probably knew better, he would have done better. And you don't know the whole story. And he
Mhm.
actually would only give what he has, you know? And
Exactly.
if you go back to his own experience, you begin to see the fears, his own demons he was fighting with, all the needs he had,
Mhm.
and you begin to have compassion for him. Like you can't
Exactly.
even have light without having compassion. And as soon as you do that, what comes next? You forgive, you let go. It's just like when Jesus
You're
said,
liberated. You
pick up
become
your mat
free.
and go. You know,
Yes.
you just go. And now your going is, how do you now work on yourself? How do you now stop the pattern from transferring to the next generation and the next
Mhm.
person you're dealing with, and the people in, your colleagues, your relationships, your friends, your romantic partners, and all of that? So he just really tells us that it brings us back to the theme, which is unlocking you. Everybody should unlock themselves, and not necessarily have to say, oh, this person did that, and that's why I'm doing this. Like, it starts with you, and it ends with you. Wow, this has been so I don't even know the words. Like, if you're listening to this and you've gotten so much insight, now imagine what you will get when you take the personality test, or imagine what you get when you become a part of our community, or imagine what you get when you just join the what's it called, the Father's Day conference coming up in June, which is a Father's Day weekend. Like, what's
Mhm.
the best way to talk about fathers if not during their weekends? I'm like, we're gonna honor you guys. So how important is the present? Father's presence tell us and listen to things from our perspectives as well. And
Yeah.
they tell us how things are happening from their own world. Because one of the things that we really do not understand each other. So these are all, platforms and initiatives that have been carefully curated just to help us overcome, the issue of fatherlessness. I've been a
Mhm.
victim. I'm a survivor. I'm making impact. T is doing same. And we're on a journey. In fact, I always say we're on a movement to go and pull out all the rest of the girls all around the world and get them to see light, because light
Yes.
is there and is waiting for them, and we're
Definitely.
really excited, to do this work. And even as we're starting, we know there is so
Mhm.
much more to do. So we're going to wrap up, and a good way to ask would be, I'm going to ask you a question, um and you could just answer anything. I know you've been on the hot seat today.
It's okay. It's cold. The weather is nice.
What?
Nice today.
Yeah, yeah, it's been amazing, and thank you so
Mhm.
much. What
Mhm.
would you say to the woman watching who feels stuck in her own story? Who is unsure if healing is even possible? What would you say to that woman?
Hmm. I would say, woman of God. I was gonna be dramatic. I would say, woman of God, go and sin no more. I'm just playing.
I love it. I love it
Okay, now on a serious note, let's come back home. I
so
would
much. Okay.
say healing is possible.
Mm,
If I could get healed, or if I could get healing, you can as well. Um, Forgiveness is not about the other person; it's about you.
mm,
Forgiveness helps to liberate. Forgiveness heals. Forgiveness opens doors. God is happy with us when we forgive. Now, I'm
mm.
not asking you to forget. You don't have Alzheimer's disease. I'm not asking you to act like nothing happened. No, you would
Yep.
remember. It's a memory.
Yep.
And for every experience you've had in your life, there's a reason for it. God
Yes.
has designed it that way. Take it and learn from it, and become a better person, right? So
Yes.
there is healing possible and available for everyone. You just have to tap into it, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, ask yourself important questions. Nobody's asking you to become best friends with the person who hurt you, in this
Yep.
case, your
Yep.
father.
Yep.
What we are trying to push for the movement is to identify that there is a possibility where you carry no grudge, you carry no ill feeling. You are free with this person, meaning you can look them and be cordial. You can
Mm,
look at them and have a conversation. You can look at them and preach the word of God to them. You can look at
mm,
them and say, you know what, you need help, I can help you. knowing
Mm.
that this doesn't even hurt you, or you can still help them, that is maturity. That is
Yeah.
something God is even always pleased about, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think anyone should feel like there's no healing. Some people might say, I have a couple of people that I know I've spoken to, and they'll say, I don't need it, it's not important in my life. But I know that a lot of people are in denial of the fact that their father wound has eaten them so deep
Yeah.
that they are not even able to identify that it's the father wound. They are blaming it on other things and other
Yeah.
people.
Other
But you need to
people.
go back to
Absolutely.
where it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just about helping yourself to become whole again,
Yeah. Yes.
to become like Dr. Doris has mentioned earlier, when your father or your mother, in whichever case it is, but in this case we're talking about fathers,
Fathers.
has left your life or left your life, they've taken a piece of you with them, and so you're not whole anymore, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the physical sense, you're not whole, or you're not whole. Obviously, spiritually, we're whole in Christ, but I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not whole anymore. Something has been taken, a part of you has been
Mm-hmm.
taken. So for you to get that back and become yourself and really thrive and live to your fullest potential, fulfill purpose, you need to find a way
Yeah.
to heal, to forgive, to reconcile, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the first, and like you mentioned earlier, the first step is to analyze yourself, do a self-evaluation, ask
Mm.
yourself very important question. Take the unlock tests on James Daughters Network. Go
Yeah.
check yourself out and see what are you battling with, what personalities do you have, how can you work and become a better person, what techniques do you need. Like I always tell people, like you said, we all have different personalities when it comes to our fatherless like issues,
Father. Yeah.
and yeah, so just like the same way, like when I was on it, I'll use this relatable example. When I was on a weight loss journey at some point, I was very frustrated because I wasn't seeing results. I was doing everything every other person was doing. I wasn't seeing results. I took a step back and I was a little scientific about it. I didn't even have a
Yeah.
science background, but that was the best approach. I took a
Yeah.
step back and I took a test to find out my body type, to find out there are
Mm.
three body types. There are endomorphs, endomorphs, ectomorphs, and mesomorphs. Found
Mm.
out I'm an endomorph, and so I cannot be trying to lose weight like an ectomorph. I'm just
Yeah.
going to be setting myself up
You
for.
gain it back. Yep.
You understand? So I needed to find out what workouts works for my body type, what diet works for my body type, right? And I use that to get results. Same
Mm.
as this.
Yeah.
Find out what personality traits you have based on the fatherless situation we're talking about, and then
Yeah.
find the techniques, the tools, and all the resources you need to be able to walk on that path or start that journey of healing.
Yeah.
We all can achieve total healing. Like I said, it's a journey, it's not a marathon, but you need
Yeah.
to put in the work. You need to be intentional. You need to be involved and actually willing to do it. The same way when
Yeah.
you want to give electrical, I said, are you willing to give electrical? It's something you want to do. Nobody has
Yeah.
to force you to do it.
First year.
When
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
forced, it doesn't really come with great
Yeah.
outcomes or results.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
every woman watching that has father wounds, that has been hurt deeply by their dad, that cannot find it in their heart to forgive them, does not even want to hear anything about their father. Take a step back and
Mm.
reassess things, reevaluate
Mm.
yourself, and remember
Mm.
that you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for
Yeah.
you,
For yourself. Yeah.
for yourself. Yes.
Wow, wow,
Mhm.
thank you. That was a deep response.
Mhm.
And I believe that those who are listening will just get that nurturing in their heart and in
Mhm.
their soul that will just stir them. And sometimes doing this can be hard. That's why it's beautiful to be a part of a community. The thing about the community we have at Gem Daughters Network is that everybody in there are fatherless. And I'm saying this not in a sarcastic way, but to say that there's nothing you want to bring that somebody has not experienced at some point or the other, that do not understand, or there's nothing you want to say. Because I know for once, one of the very big challenges for every fatherless daughter is when to review their stories, who to tell their stories to, when to tell their stories, why to tell their stories. So we have all of these things buried in us. And so when you hear T talk about, go back, take a step back, review it, it can feel like it's so much work. But when you're doing it with others, where you're all working on your individual experiences, but you know that you're not alone, it makes the weight lighter, and that's one benefit of joining our community. So thank you so much, T. I often end obviously with anything, but today, because I'm doing this with you, I'm going to be speaking to those who are listening to us and just reminding them that honor the little girl in you, honor the little girl in you, embrace the woman that you're becoming. For you to, I know, we just got into Q2 and a lot of people, Q1 is gone, Q2, what are my goals, 2025? You're trying to chase and run with a woman when you haven't taken time to honor the little girl. And if you keep running with the woman, what is my desire? You would never be enough. You would never be fulfilled. You will start something and all of a sudden you will feel like you're hacked because you have not addressed the root cause. So take time, honor the little girl in you, embrace the woman you're becoming, and remember that you're not fatherless. You are father-filled, father-filled with wisdom, with resilience. And when you take a step back to review your stories, review it not from a place of shame, because that's one thing that we have carried for a long time. I personally, like I said, I've been through this. When you talk about fatherlessness, I can take you back to how I would be mocked by, other kids from school. Oh, where's your daddy? Your daddy didn't come to school today for PTA meeting, Just think about little girls or little boys that time, just genuinely asking questions. So when we look at our life, it always comes with a place with shame, and that's not what you want to do. You want to review your life not from a place of shame, but as the soil through which your strength grows. As the soil through which your resilience grows. And that's what T said, I think, earlier in the call today, where you said there's some things that if you never had the experience, you never had known that you could do certain things. And that's you looking deep and saying, this is a strength that I could activate, or I could, excavate from this experience. And so remember that you are awakened, you can be aware, and you are alive. And for this, be grateful. Be grateful, be a part of our community. If you go to our link on our bio, you would see the link to all the resources that we offer. In fact, what I just shared with you, I pulled it out from one of the free resources that is on our website. It's called an affirmation, awareness affirmation. So it's something you can go in, download, and then just read through it and use it like as an affirmation you remind yourself of daily or every morning, or whenever you choose to. We also have other resources. I think the one I can think about right now is a reflection exercise. So let's say you want to go back to your story and you want to excavate your life and you want to think about it. Go and download these things and just sit down in your quiet time and have those prompts in front of you and answer them. Good resources we have for you. But like you said, I'm really excited to have you here, T. I'm really excited for you.
I am too. I can't wait to join the network as well, because I'm very passionate about what you're doing. Because to me,
so many things
yes,
together.
because to me, I feel like I look at the network as even beyond what we're trying to do. I feel like
Yes.
this is the movement that is potentially going to bring fathers back home. This is a
Yes.
movement that is going to potentially mend relationships between fathers
Yep.
and daughters, and
Yep.
make our men more, accountable, make them more
Accountable.
involved.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
there's more to it. There's so many
There,
layers to it.
so much juice, to just squeeze from it. I was
Yeah.
thinking about it and I was like, I could just imagine one of our conferences, which we will do maybe in a few years to come. Conferences where fathers are actually there with
Yeah.
their daughters.
Daughters, yeah, and they can listen.
Conferences, listening, where we have our daughters, but they have no clue. Now I think I'm spilling it now. Where they have no clues that their fathers are going to actually be in that conference. And then they are there, thinking they are coming to Gem Daughters Conference, not knowing that they're going to see their father. And then healing takes place. There's so many things that we could do to just heal our broken world. And you cannot do life from a broken place. I know that for a fact. I you could go on getting all the accolades, getting all the degrees, the certification, but you're listening to me, that in your quiet time you're a wreck. You're a mess. You know that there's
Yes.
something that is not complete. So
Yes.
work with us. Let's get this done. While we're addressing this issue with daughters, I want to highlight that daughters are also women and girls. So while we're working with women, there are other chapters of us
Younger
working with
girls.
girls, younger girls. So it's going to be amazing. Join our network, support us. Let's do this together.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is not a me thing, and this is not a T thing. It's an we
A
thing.
community, a
It's
big
a we
community. It's a
thing. It's a
movement.
community. Yeah, and it's a movement. It is a movement. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an amazing time together. I wish
It
this would
has
come to
been.
an end. But if you want to hear more of T's wisdom, get ready to attend the conference in June. I'm spilling it now, but it's in June 14th. Go ahead, follow us so you can get all the updates. And yeah, we look forward to doing more of this. Thank you
Yes.
so much
Me
for coming.
too. Nice to be here.
Nice to hear.
Excited for the work you're doing.
Yeah,
God bless you for the work you're doing, for even coming up with this initiative. And I
yeah,
cannot wait to be part of the network, because this is
yeah,
something I'm passionate about. Like I said, I feel like this is one of the God's purposes. Like, God wants me to do this. And
yeah.
so I'm very, very happy about it. And yeah, I won't be a stranger. I'll be like, please
Yes.
say more. All right.
Awesome, awesome. Until next time, I think next week, no, not next week, this Friday, we actually have another series with someone else again coming
Okay.
on board. So please feel free to join us this Friday.
Okay.
The details will be on our page. All
All
right.
right.
That will be all for now. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you for
Good night.
joining. Bye.
Fathers rock.
Yes, we do. They do.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. I'm gonna stop this now.